All right, here is another inquiry for awakening, for deepening, for stabilizing, for unifying, for dissolving. And this one I'll call the God inquiry. God. That wonderful word that is so loaded culturally. So, if we think of the term God in terms of monotheistic views, the one God, so not, there are many gods and there are these deities that are kind of beings that have, in essence, more power than a human has. They can control weather, they live forever or live for an extremely long time. But we're not talking about that. We're not talking about powerful beings. We're talking about God in terms of, well, the basically two main terms that God is associated with. Term one is the creator, the generator, the source, that which creates all. So God creates or manifests or makes possible the universe. God is the source of the universe. It is from God that space-time reality, planets, stars, trees, roads, you, me, thoughts, energy, light, all of this is possible, right? So that is one of the fundamental understandings of what God represents. So God, in terms of that, is, you could call, the source, the infinite potentiality from which all things spring. And again, this includes even things such as space, such as time, such as energy, such as matter, such as perception, awareness, existence as such. So, then there is the second most attributed aspect of God, which is that God is watching, God is viewing, God is watching over. God sees all. Right? So, if we go to kind of the let's say stereotypical or conventional view that, let's say, at least in my part of the world, in kind of the Eastern America, that seemed to prevail about God, conveyed this image of this kind of old man with a beard and a staff who was very serious, also kind of very judgmental, and wanted you to prove your loyalty. That's just the way it kind of was conveyed to me. And it just, to break this down, if God is the source of all, is this kind of infinite potentiality that arises as form, that manifests, this notion of God having a gender, God having any form whatsoever, a man, an old man, a bearded man, really just falls apart pretty easily. It is incredibly, just waiting for the cars to pass, likely that It is absolutely possible, let's say, that God can appear as an old man with a staff and a beard who's judgmental, who has a lot more power than general humans. That sounds a lot more like, a Zeus or an Odin. I'm wondering about the intelligence of recording this video while walking down a busy road, but we'll see how the audio quality comes out, and if it doesn't work, then I'll just do it again some other time. So, God absolutely can appear as anything, but that would mean that God can't have a form, because God can take any form. God does take any form. So God's actual form, therefore, has to be no form, has to be prior to form, has to be prior to even space and time, because God created space and time and form and energy. God is the source of all of this. God is the source of gender. If gender is even a thing. God is the source of space and time, if space and time are even a thing. Right? So God having a particular shape doesn't make sense. God having any shape and all shapes makes sense. So let's go and really look at this creator of the universe, source of the universe. So if God is the source, the infinite potentiality that makes space, time, and all things possible, then all things are, first we can say, made of God. Made of God. All things are made of God. The road is made of God. The bushes are made of God. The guardrail is made of God. The rust is made of God. The American flag, the clouds, the sky, space, all made of God. And then if something is made of something, it's pretty reasonable to say it is that. So let's try that on and try to feel this, try to sense into this. Everything, the road, the guardrail, the bushes, the trees, the electric wires, the sky, the clouds, the space, are all God. Not only are they made of God, they are God. There is no difference. The sounds are made of God. The sounds are God. The infinite potentiality arising in this way. That's what this is. This is God. And just let that sense into that. Let that register. What if every single thing, everything is God? Equally. Equally and simultaneously, specifically. Equally and specifically. What if? Is it possible? Let it in as a possibility that everything is God. It's not that God is something else. Yes, God is beyond all of this. God is eternal, before time, immortal, before birth and death. God is beyond all form. And God is all form. So God is before, beyond, and is simultaneously. It's only from a human mind perspective that these are two different things, formless, beyondness, and things. But in reality, there is no division. There is no division. So it's all God. So let that in as, could it be just like a dream that this is God's dream? God is both beyond beyond all things, and inherent in all things, and is all things. Just like you assume you create a world when you're dreaming, God creates this world. This is God's dream. This is God's creation. Okay. Now, let's look at that other aspect. So keep sensing into this. Is that possible? Could it be that everything is God equally? That there's nowhere you look that isn't the divine? And now let's look into that second aspect, which is the watcher, the knower, the one who watches over. Another word for this is awareness. God is the one that watches. And see if you can feel and sense into this. So, God, the infinite potentiality that is beyond all things, that is inherent in all things, and that is all things, is also the watcher of all things. That oneness that God is, that unity that God is what is watching. So God's watching is everywhere. The watching is everywhere. What is aware of this right here, right now, is everywhere, everything. It's beyond, inherent, and is aware, conscious, knowing. Again, dream is a great kind of access point, right? If this is God's dream, then God is simultaneously generating and aware of everything here, yet is also beyond everything here. If this is your dream, when you dream, you are both generating and aware of the dream, but nothing in the dream touches you, and yet all of it is you. Now, can you see how this awareness knows itself through these vantage points, right? So the awareness is one, is universal, is beyond, inherent, and is, right? But it also can seem to view from vantage points, such as the vantage point of quote unquote me, or you, or a bird, or a squirrel, or a tree. Some amount of perception. So it is not only that God is viewing from some God location, but also viewing exactly through your eyes, through your ears, through your brain which filters what comes into the eyes and ears, and filters it with thoughts and concepts. The brain makes this all look this way, but this isn't how it looks, it's just how the brain interprets what's coming into the eyes and ears, and knows and feel. And God is looking through this sensory appendage, sense organ, right? It's been said we are the fingertips of God. We are the sense organ of God. That's what a human is. It's how God can experience God, right? It experiences God potentially likely more more complexly through a human than it does through asphalt. And it can experience itself as asphalt through the human. And I don't know exactly how this works, but the asphalt may also be experiencing the human and the cars stepping on it in some way. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that works. But we can definitely say that a worm experiences, and that a bird experiences, and that plants have some type of experience. So this is how God knows itself, through looking through these sense locations, and human beings happen to be mobile sensory units, and they have this funny conceptual filter that breaks everything apart and conceptualizes, thinks about. And God sees through that mechanism of human that you call yourself. And that mechanism of human that you call yourself is none other than God. So feel that your body, your mind, your thoughts, everything is God. God is everything. God is the aware source that you are. The beyond, the inherent, and the all that you are.